Farmers. They always look before they leap. And with more tank mix options, neighbor-friendly weed control, and much more, farmers have looked and leapt for the superior technology of Enlist herbicides. And these advantages begin when you plant Enlist E3 soybeans. Discover a better seed and herbicide system at enlist.com. You looked. Now leap.
Ten, 9, 8. Ignition sequence has started. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
You have entered Untold Radio AM. And now broadcasting from a secret location, your hosts, Joel Sturgis and Doug Hychek. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this edition of Untold Radio AM. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis. Right along with me is Mr. Doug Hychek. How you doing, Doug?
Doing good. How are you?
Good. I'm excited.
Oh, yeah. Me too. We got a cool guest.
Well, beyond that. I mean, not that we don't have a cool guest. And I'll get to that in a second. Is the Bigfoot Festival.
Oh, yeah.
Part 2. It's like Minnesota Bigfoot. Yeah.
It's like next week. No.
That's like not next weekend, but the weekend after. And so I'm getting kind of excited. And of course, that's Timberlake Lodge. Be there, B Square, Grand Rapids, Minnesota Bigfoot Conference. Dr. Meldrum's going to be there. Cliff Berkman's going to be there. I'm going to be there. You're going to be there. Abe's going to be there. It's going to be a great time. So if you haven't got your tickets yet, you better get those because they are going fast. So go ahead, get your tickets. Hit us up on Facebook, the website, all that kind of good stuff, mmbrt.com. You can get all that kind of good stuff. Just want to throw that out there. I'm just getting really excited for it, Doug. I know you are too.
I am. I've got a lot of things I have to do.
And tonight, we have a great guest on tap. Like always, we have Dave Schrader joining us. Dave Schrader is a longtime radio host, hey, kind of like us. And he is also the host and one of the stars of the Holzer Files and Travel Channel. So he is going to be joining us at the bottom of the hour.
Yeah, it's going to be cool. I mean, I've been listening to Dave for, it's got to be 20 years on the radio.
20 years, you figure, huh?
Yeah.
That's a long time, man. That's a long, long time.
Maybe, no, longer than that, I bet. I don't know. How long has Dave been on the radio?
I don't know. We'll ask him.
I think 20. Let's guess. Okay. Well,
I don't think it's going to be 20.
No.
I think he's been around a while, but I don't think it's going to be 20.
Don't be cheating now.
I'm not cheating. I'm not even Googling it. In your own bio. That you put up. On UntoldRadioAM.com, by the way. You guys can get over there. Take a look at it. Love it. Be a part of it. Join the madness. It says, Tim Dennis started off with Darkness Radio 2006. Dave and him. So, there you go.
Oh,
there should be your answer right there.
So you cheated.
I did not. It's on your website. It's
know,
not cheating if it's on your website.
But you didn't have to go look at it.
So anyhow.
Demerits.
we demerits. Really gonna start that again.
Yeah. Say,
Mr. Late.
Speaking of demerits and number. Okay. Did you know something really weird happened yesterday?
What's that really weird that happened yesterday?
Okay. I want you to listen to this.
I will. Do you have a choice?
You don't. So yesterday at 21 minutes past 9. So it was September 21st, right?
Sure.
So at 21 minutes past 9 yesterday, it was the 21st minute of the 21st hour of the 21st day of the 21st week of the 21st year of the century.
So you sat back, you pondered that during that time?
Yeah.
You did?
Well, no.
It happened last year, too.
No, it didn't.
It did, because it was the 20th hour, 20th minute of the
But it
20th
wasn't
year.
2021.
I understand that.
So
but
that broke the chain.
it broke the chain? Okay. I'm following you. I really
got the
am.
phone chain.
Gotcha.
That is weird, though, if you think about it. Or have you ever noticed
really
your
weird.
odometer? Always you notice it, and it turns, some weird number like 21212121.
Or 666. I had that happen to me once.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, but you always seem to notice it.
I know, but I drove that extra mile, so 667 then.
Yeah, but you did it on purpose. No, I'm talking about
I didn't
like
want to sit
looking at
there
the
in
clock
666.
every time it's 11:11.
Do you have a number, Doug, that follows you no matter what? Like it could be the number 12 or whatever. Whenever you look at the clock, it's 7:12, the 12th day. Is there a number that kind of follows you?
It's ones. Number ones.
Okay. Yep. Gotcha. For me, it's sevens. For some strange reason. Sevens. I don't know why.
It's because you're in seventh place.
That's because maybe I'm a seventh heaven. Maybe I'm lucky. Maybe sevens are good.
They are good if you hit them at a casino.
Right. Yeah, 7s and 11s. Yep.
There's some ancient history, in numerology.
Yeah, I was going to say, have you ever dived in numerology
I have.
Figure that out?
It's kind of freaky. It really does mess with your head.
Should we get a numerologist on the show to mess with you a little bit?
Yeah, I don't know any. Do you?
I do. I do a couple. I know a couple of them.
Well, get one booked.
So,
it'd be
fascinating. Get one booked for you. Yeah, that'd be a good time right there. We'll have to do that. So, Doug, what else is going on in your world? Anything fun? Anything exciting? Anything you can mention?
Well, I've been prepping for the Bigfoot conference.
Yeah, we are going out Bigfoot hunting too, by the way.
Yeah, I heard that. I just was reminded about that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
sounds good.
We're actually hitting the woods.
As long as it's not in the middle of a tornado.
Not like last year.
I think I'm the one that told everybody that. It's like, dudes, you don't want to be in the forest in a windstorm.
No, you don't. But I actually probably would have still gone. Me personally.
Yeah, you guys were all relieved. I was like, because it was in August, and it was like a mosquito-ridden, humid, one of those nights. There's no way you want to go in the woods.
Well, it was a good time, though. Last year was a blast, and this year is already bigger. So we've already got more vendors, more people, more everything.
But you didn't go in the woods.
We didn't. So this year will be better. I really missed out. I was really upset we weren't able to go in the woods.
No, you weren't.
I was too.
No, you weren't.
I was broken up.
Okay,
I was broken up beside
90%.
myself.
The forest was full of wood ticks, mosquitoes, and then you had a tornado on top of it. Really?
Well, all those things aside, it would have been a nice night.
But this year, it's October. I mean, that's the time to be in the forest.
And you're actually going to be coming out with us, right?
Oh, God, yes. Oh, absolutely.
Okay, good.
Absolutely. Good. Wouldn't miss it because it's...
Hey, I did the other day.
What?
I did the 4-wheeler run that we did for the ride, by the way.
What, just for fun?
Yeah, the Hoyt Lakes one that you said, oh my God, that's the longest experience of my life.
No, I didn't. I said it was the dustiest.
So anyhow, the only reason why I bring that up is we have a couple new sponsors for next fun run.
Oh.
So I want to bring that up too and thank them that are going to be sponsors. So they're going to be sponsors of the next fun run. So it'll be even bigger and better and more people and just a better time all the way around. And hopefully it won't be as dusty.
Yeah. And don't run over any goat suckers.
No, don't do that.
Do you know what a goat sucker is?
El Chupacabra. There we go. I can spit it out.
No. A bird. There's a bird called the goat sucker.
There is?
Yes.
Oh.
Okay.
Really?
Do you know what a nightjar is?
I do not. I do not know a nightjar. The only nightjar I know of is I peed in one once.
Yep. Anyhow, okay, a nightjar, you've probably heard the name nighthawk.
I have.
A nightjar is a nighthawk. A goat sucker is a nighthawk.
Gotcha.
Because they nest on the ground, and they would often nest near domesticated animals.
And why? And why? Okay,
And
gotcha.
They must be sucking, because they never saw them eat anything, or because they fly at night, so they were sucking blood.
What brought this thought?
Well, because you're driving your ATVs and they're nesting on the ground right in the middle of the ATV trails. Didn't you ever hear that?
No.
Oh my God, I've seen so many literally driving, like if an ATV trail hasn't been used in a while, you'll see them right in the trail or on these little tracks. And they're so camouflaged.
Really? Well, then how would you see them?
Well, you wouldn't, because they're not the brightest birds in the world.
But they're goat suckers.
They're goats.
And they obviously got the name because they're sucking goats?
No, I told you why. Because they'll nest on the ground near domesticated animals.
I understand that. I understand that. I understand you told me why.
They're what they call corpuscular. They fly around at dusk and dawn.
Sure.
But there's one of these birds. There's tons of different goat sucker birds.
Really?
But there's one that lives in Ethiopia. That's the weirdest thing you have ever seen in your life. I swear to God, It is the weirdest bird you'll ever see in your life when it flies, because it has, during mating season, it grows these two really long stalks, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're flight feathers, but they grow they're like 18 inches, maybe 14, 15, 16.
Really?
And then at the end are these bunch of feathers. And then when they fly, it looks like there's three birds flying together.
Interesting. I'm Googling this right now as you speak.
Okay, do a video. The standard nightjar.
Oh my God, that's a strange looking bird.
I know, but do the video.
Well,
the standard winged nightjar. It'll be the weirdest thing you've ever seen in your life.
I've seen some weird things in my life.
This is weirder than that. Standard winged nightjar.
Okay, I'll have to check that out later on.
No, do it now.
Do it now. Do it now. Okay, fine. Doing it right now.
Do it now.
Doing it right now.
And I suggest everybody else do it because it's worth it. Standard winged nightjar. I mean, they're anything but standard. They're
not very big.
No, I know, but that's not the point. Look at them. Look at a video of them flying. It'll freak you out.
I'm watching it right now. That is a freaky looking bird, let me tell you.
Have you ever seen anything that freaky flying?
No, not once until I met you.
Oh, well. Fly.
No, but no, it was really an odd sight.
But if you
thank you for sharing that.
Look, if you saw that and didn't know what it was, you would think you were seeing things.
I probably would. I would definitely give me pause.
You would think
what the hell did I just see?
You would think it was some kind of cryptid.
I probably would. But
you won't see one of them because they only live in Ethiopia.
That is true, so I am safe. Besides, they don't hurt humans anyway.
No. Okay, now shut your internet off. I got a question for you.
All right, internet shut off.
Yeah.
Sure.
How many bird species do we know about?
46,712.
Oh my God, where are you? Is that your guess?
That's my guess because you told me I had to shut off my internet.
I finally believe you didn't cheat. It's 9,000.
Okay, 9,000. That's a lot, though.
Yeah,
that is a lot.
So then there's really weird birds, and I got interested in birds, and I really did get interested because one day I bought a new Yamaha 400 motorcycle. And of course, I'm riding on the road and I see a trail off to the side in the woods. And it's a street bike, like it's as straight of a street bike could ever be. And I'm thinking, I wonder what happens when you take a street bike on the dirt.
It's not an enduro. So,
well, yeah. I know, but this is before YouTube, okay? There was nowhere to go for information, so I thought I'll just try it. Because I used to ride dirt bikes.
Sure.
Yeah, the tires are smooth. Okay, so what? So I start tearing off into the trails. I remember off Egret Boulevard, and it's really cool back there. And I get by a creek in a real dark part of the old growth forest, And I swear to God, I've seen this. So I see this giant red and black bird that's probably, 12, 13 inches in the body. But it had a red crisscross tail that was probably, minimum 24 inches.
Really?
And it looked like the phoenix, kind of.
Yeah.
And I started buying bird books.
That's cool.
I kept buying them, looking for this damn bird. Because not only did I get a good look at it, I mean, I sat and studied it for quite a while it sat there. And it was on the side of a tree trunk. And hold on. Oh, I just got an important message from our guest.
Oh, no. Yes.
Our guest. So anyhow, let me finish, and I'm going to go check that.
Okay.
So that's how I got interested in birds, being obsessed, looking for the one bird that I saw that I could never identify. And
very cool.
And I got interested in all these different weird birds.
Sure.
And there are a lot of cool weird birds. Like, have you ever heard of the skunk bird?
No, I have not.
The conjay pheasant. These are good things to look up.
They are. I'm going to remember to do that. I've heard of the whirly bird.
Pheasant looks like a dinosaur.
Really?
It still does, yeah. It looks like a prehistoric. If you saw one, you'd think you just witnessed a prehistoric.
A dinosaur, yeah. Okay, now begs the question. Are these being mistaken? Some of these, not all, but are some of these being mistaken for cryptids?
I would imagine they have. And a cryptid really is any animal that's unknown to science.
Yes, that's true.
So if I saw one and didn't know about it, I would think, oh my God, I just saw a cryptid.
Yeah, there could be a high-check bird out there.
Well,
if you ever discover one.
To this day, it bugs you because not only have I never found anybody that saw what I saw, I don't know if it was some tropical flyover, where birds get off course and they end up.
Are you talking about your giant encounter on the highway?
No.
Oh, you're talking about your street bike encounter. Okay. Yeah. There you go.
And by the way, it worked just fine in the dirt.
Oh. Okay.
With smooth tires.
Well, I would imagine it did. The street bike tires are still rated for some dirt.
Yep.
So,
but I mean, there's birds with those like iridescent colors.
Sure.
I mean, they're unbelievable. They really
they are.
I don't know. I'm interested.
That is cool. That is very, very cool, man. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, right.
Compelling and rich.
All right, here's one that you should look up. That's similar to what I saw. Only what I saw had red tail.
Mm-hmm.
It's the long-tailed Astrapia. It's 3 times their body size. That's how big the tail was on what I saw, but they were red, not white.
Wow.
Yeah.
Strange.
Oh, here's one that will soon become your favorite bird. The Andean cock of the rock.
Hey, I got a bird to show you.
That's a true bird. Indian cock of the rock.
I hear you. You evidently didn't look at your camera.
Well, yeah, I did. I saw the bird. Didn't faze me. I could care less.
I can't see you, but you can see me.
My camera. Oh, gee, there we go. Okay. So it's got a big bright orange head.
Sure.
It's just feathers and black. It's just the weirdest looking thing you've ever. But who come up with that name?
Right. Somebody did, obviously, or kind of like the woodcock, right? The game bird. Yeah. Who would think of that name? The silly names. Some of them
eat those things. So
they do. I've had that before.
They're tiny.
And they're good though. They're good eating. You don't get much meat, but there's.
You just eat them. What do you eat?
Well, some of them can get pretty large-ish.
All the ones I've seen are tiny. They look like a snipe.
They're hard to find.
They look like a snipe bird or a.
Yep.
So, the beach bird, the ones that run around. What are they called?
Sure, I know what you're talking about.
Sandpipers.
Yep, they look a lot like a sandpiper. You're right.
Yep.
You are right. So that is cool though, man. I mean, I made fun of you a little bit, but in all honesty, that is a cool sighting that you had.
Yeah, it is. Because it got me interested in birds. Maybe that was...
Bird is the word.
Yeah, maybe I'm going to do a bird documentary someday.
You should. You should do a bird documentary.
Yeah.
You should really do one of those.
That's what I need.
Speaking of movies,
Yeah.
Doug, do you ever think to yourself, is there any movie in your mind that should never, ever, any circumstances ever be remade?
The Wizard of Oz.
Well, there's 12 iconic movies that have just been released because they're redoing The Exorcist. I don't know if you heard this or not, but
you're never going to top the first one.
I know, but they're like throwing $300 million at this thing, and they're determined to make this just as good. And I use that in quotations here because that's them saying it, is the original, if not better. I don't know, man. Yeah. That was a different time in society.
There was one Gregory Peck.
Yeah.
He's never coming back.
No, he's not coming back. He's never coming back. So Wizard of Oz is your pick to never be remade.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
No one should ever remake that movie.
No.
So they released 12 iconic movies that should never be remade. And here's the here's the list. Do the Right Thing by Spike Lee. I don't know if you ever saw that movie or not.
Could care less.
Forrest Gump.
Yeah, why?
That one should never be remade. Right? This is people's opinion. When people were asked what movie should never be remade. Dead Poets Society. That should never be remade. That had Robin Williams in it. He was great. Love Jones. Never saw that one either. So don't know what it's all about, but they're claiming that should never be remade. The Breakfast Club should never be remade. Do you agree with that? Did you ever see the movie? I can't hear you, Doug. I don't know what's going on over there.
I was young.
There you go.
I saw.
All right. The Princess Bride never should be remade. The Godfather should never be remade. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, of course.
Right. So I mean, this is kind of a no-brainer.
There's a lot of movies.
But the number one movie they said should never be touched, never be remade ever, get this, is 1997's Titanic. How did that make number one? Gone with the Wind didn't make it. Wizard of Oz didn't make it. All these iconic movies, but yet they choose the number one do not touch movie is freaking Titanic.
I didn't think the movie was that amazing.
I didn't think it was that great to big. I mean, it wasn't horrible. I sat through it.
like when the boat was tipped straight up and the one guy fell.
Yeah, that was kind of a good part. Yeah, exactly.
Sweet.
You were screaming sweet in the theaters. Look at this. Thank God something's happening.
It wasn't in the theater.
You didn't see it in the theater?
But I just remember that scene was pretty dramatic where the people were falling.
Yeah.
The boat was straight up in the air.
I think Back to the Future should never be remade. That didn't make the list. Michael J. Fox, Back to the Future. That one should never be remade. Probably a few others, if I had to think of the back of my head, that shouldn't be remade. But The Exorcist should not have been remade.
It shouldn't have been remade for numerous reasons, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. What would your reason? What would be some of your reasons not to remake it, Doug, as a filmmaker?
Well, I mean, when it certainly was done right.
It's iconic. I mean, how do you top an icon?
Scared the living daylights out of everybody.
Did you see that movie when you were a kid?
Yeah.
So it was in the 70s.
Well, I don't know if I was a kid. Yeah,
it was 73.
I would have been I was young.
Yeah, well, you were born in 58.
Somewhere in that area.
You don't want to divulge your age, I understand that.
Area.
But you must have been your late teens, early 20s
yep.
when that came out. Yep. So you remember it well when it first came out.
Yep, but I still remember the conversation leaving the theater.
Yeah.
And it was kind of silent.
Oh, so you went and saw it in the theater?
Oh, in the theater when it was new, yeah.
Really?
Release.
What was that like? Were people going crazy?
We walked out of the theater and didn't say a word.
Just a silent.
Yep. Awkward silence.
Like, what the hell did we just witness?
Exactly. It was just too much.
Yeah. I would imagine. I would
Because
imagine.
remember, okay, if that movie shocks people now, can you imagine what it shocked us in the 70s?
I couldn't. Yeah, right. Yeah, because even audiences are still being shocked by it today.
I mean,
You're
they
right.
still
It'd
they
be
still had I
new.
Love Lucy and Desi sleeping in separate beds.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then go to a theater and hear that kind of language and
yeah. So society was not ready
No.
for, what they were encountering, pea soup and all the things that came with that movie.
well, I think so much of it was the language.
Mm-hmm.
It was
They
so
had no shortage of it, and especially coming from a child.
well. Now they have songs with lyrics, that.
Well, yeah, but that was
worse.
different
But
though. Society
But
was
back
simpler
then,
then.
back then it was a pretty wholesome world.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now that wouldn't barely move the needle if a movie like that came out.
No,
Right?
probably not.
It took another one that they were saying that should never be remade is the Blair Witch Project.
Huh.
I mean, what did you think about the found footage genre of horror flicks when that came out? Did not no opinion?
I don't know. I grew up on horror movies that were like clay animation,
Yeah,
and they were
that's true.
they were
That is
more, they left things to your imagination.
Were you a fan of King Kong,
Not
Godzilla?
well, sure, yeah. I mean, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that was my favorite movie in the whole world. But there were certain movies, like there was a line of movies, Sinbad. There were some good Tarzan movies that were
Sure.
kind of bordering a lot of mystery. They even had one kind of like on Bigfoot.
Really?
Yeah, back in the 50s, yeah.
Really? Wow. So
Encountered
Bigfoot.
these kind of more human-like gorillas
Okay.
in
Okay.
the forest, and I've never seen it again.
Interesting, because I know I saw Boggy Creek. I forget what it was called though. That documentary, was it called The Beast of Boggy?
The Legend.
Legend of Boggy Creek, and that's still a good movie. I saw that I would say about a year, 2 years ago, on one of the channels, and it was still a damn good movie. I thought.
Yeah. It was. I didn't think it was good quality.
No, the quality wasn't good, but the movie itself. I mean, it was the first Bigfoot movie out there, though.
Yeah, it didn't do anything for me.
No, have you ever been to where that took place?
Sure. But it just didn't. The movie didn't do anything for me.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah,
a lot of people talk about it. Oh, that was the. I mean, things like In Search of.
Mhm.
Changed my.
That tripped your trigger. It was like In Search of.
Yep. Yeah,
I could see
it was
that.
written, narrated.
Yeah. But they did that show right. In Search of was done right. I mean, it was a great show for its time. It still is a good show. There's still a lot of people, and me included, that watch it whenever I get a chance. The old In Search of stuff.
Yeah, hold on a second. I'm trying to read. I'm trying to read an important email from our guest.
A breaking news kind of email.
I don't know yet.
Doing
Doing it on my phone, and you know how that goes. Of course, I left my glasses.
Should I do the little like breaking news? Hello.
Oh, okay.
Hello, Clarice.
Hello. It's just some stuff that some new links we have to put in for Dave. That's all.
Oh,
Wasn't
jeez, man.
I mean, it's important, and I'll take care of it immediately.
Oh, for the website.
Yes. So we're going to tell people ignore the links.
Ignore the links that are there now. That kind of thing. Oh, so it wasn't breaking news.
No.
Screw you, man. You had me all excited for breaking news. And I even did the and nothing happened.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Well,
Again.
Davies,
Again, nothing happened. Damn it.
It's like the most. God, he's got probably one of the best voice in radio, period. The entire
Damn it, man.
Yep. Do you remember Dave at the conference when he would do announcements
I do.
without a loudspeaker?
Yes.
I hear a pin drop when he talks.
I do. Yeah, I made a career in radio. I know exactly how that rolls.
I mean, you got a good voice, but you're not Dave Schrader.
God, thank God for small.
No, you great voice, but you're not this booming, deep, rich.
Well, it all depends if I want to be.
Wow.
So, I have different phases to the old voice. The old pipes have different attributes to them that I can call upon.
Well, I'm sure. But Dave, Dave is Dave all the time.
Dave all the time. Anyhow, that's awesome. I can't wait to talk to him. It's going to be a wonderful time talking with him. We come back, Dave Schrader will be joining us. Don't go anywhere.
Not to be dramatic, but I'm obsessed with how much I just saved at Kohl's. I got 25% off Nike clothes for the kids, the cutest $39.99 flex hoodie for me, and got great Columbia gear for all our outdoor adventures. Did I mention the extra 20% off and the Kohl's cash I got? So yeah, not sure what I love more, fall deals or fall weather. Select styles, 20% offer ends October 3rd. Some exclusions apply. See store or kohls.com for details.
BMO Harris is where you are with banking tools you need where you need them, like fast Zelle transfers.
Who had the 3-cheese omelet? Mine was 5 cheese. Okay, then you owe $11.72. I also had a side of bacon. So then make that $15.39. I have a mimosa on the way. Okay.
With BMO Harris, you can split bills easily using Zelle once you finally figure out who owes what. When your bank is where you are. That's the BMO effect.
Doug and I will be right back.
Hi, Tom Bodette. If you can hear me, then you have an internet connection, which means you can do cool things online, like listen to streaming radio, obviously, or watch a video of a monkey washing a cat. Let your freak flag fly. Or you can book a room at a great price at motel6.com. Isn't the internet wonderful? Everything you want right at your fingertips, and whoa, did not need to see that. I'm Tom Bodette for Motel 6, and we'll leave the light on for you.
Unexpected reactions to smart financial decisions brought to you by feedthepig.org.
Well, I finally did it. My student loan is totally paid off.
I can't believe it.
I can't believe it either. I paid more than the minimum each month, and soon enough, it was gone.
So you're just giving up?
Giving up on what?
The life of luxury. Egyptian cotton, caviar Thursdays, designer everything.
What are you talking about?
Our plan. What happened to winning the lottery and mastering the art of the perfect mimosa? Hosting galas, wearing enough jewelry to require a bodyguard, vacationing in the French Riviera, and then buying it.
I just thought maybe it was time to prepare for my future. You know, set some financial goals, make some smart investments, open a 401k.
Financial goals? Investments? A 401k? You are horrifying right now. Listen, if winning the lottery were easy, everyone would do it.
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind. Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Northern Tool and Equipment.
So me and the boys head out to tailgate today and find some other fans in our spot.
Well, it happens.
Cheering for the wrong team.
Oh, this is war.
Even worse, they've got this couch set up and everything.
A couch?
Yeah, it's sectional.
All right, first thing, don't ever use the word sectional again.
Done.
Second, I want you to grab a 4,700-pound tow chain with J-hook and grab hammer. Throw that on the back of your truck.
Got it.
Now you're going to Hail Mary the J-hook over the end of that couch. Time to find a better spot for your new friends.
That should do it.
There's no problem a little horsepower can't solve. Northern Tool and Equipment.
Taking a family of 5 to the amusement park can cost a small fortune.
Oh, yeah. So to save some money, we thought, hey, let's bring the amusement park to us.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right. Step right up, young man. Are you ready to ride the wacky waterfall?
That's just the bathtub with the shower head running.
Nope, it's the wacky waterfall.
It's the shower, Dad.
Waterfall.
Wacky.
There's an easier way to save. To get a free rate quote, go to geico.com. Then buy online, over the phone, or at your local Geico office.
Green light. Hey, girl. School zone. I'm getting hungry. Car changing lanes. You want to meet me for pizza? Stop sign. Intersection clear. Yeah, street. Pizza sounds good. Ballin Street? Girlin Street!
It's hard to concentrate on two things at once, like texting and driving. Stop the text, stop the wrecks. How will you stop texting and driving? Tell us at stoptextstopwrecks.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
And welcome back to Untold Radio AM. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis. Right along with me is Mr. Doug Highcheck. Doug, you did survive. We're here. You did not blow up after the list of movies that should never be remade. You're okay, right?
Yeah, I'm good. And,
yeah, because
a listener just agree on one movie, The Wizard of Oz.
Well, yeah, that's funny because a listener got a hold of me, just a quick text going, "Hey, they're talking about remaking The Wizard of Oz," so I'm gonna have to look into that. I'm hearing you, man. I'm hearing you. So I'll look into that and see whether or not that's true or not, because that'd be a travesty of cinema justice right there. That'd be horrible. Today we've got a great guest on tap with us. We have Mr. Dave Schrader. You know him, you love him. He speaks all over the country. And you have a lot of followers, a lot of people that love you, Dave. But Dave has been a long-time radio host. He's the co-host of Darkness Radio, as you guys know. With Tim Dennis, they have been doing that since 2006. It has grown into this wildly popular radio show that, I gotta say this, has taken on a life of its own, Darkness Nation and whatnot. Dave also hosts Midnight in the Desert. Now, Art Bell, I knew Art Bell way back in my early days of radio hosting. So that's really cool that you took those reins, Dave. I just wanted to throw that out there.
I did for 2 years. I left it a little over a year and a half ago when I went back to film our second season of the Holzer Files. It was too much to do 5 nights a week live show.
Oh, that's
and do Darkness Radio 3 times a week. So I no longer with Midnight in the Desert. They actually, I don't even know if they still exist, unfortunately.
Well, that's, people don't understand, Dave, that radio is hard. It's not like you just walk in and flip a microphone and, hey, I'm here to talk tonight, and here's our guest. It's many hours of understanding the subject matter. It's many hours of having your questions ready. A lot of prep goes into it, because everyone that feels that radio, I could do that, not a problem, doesn't understand the ungodly amount of prep to put on a show that makes it sound easy. So I hear you, man. It is not easy juggling all that stuff.
You do all that prep?
I do no prep. No,
I just turn on my microphone and go.
Yeah. That's it. No, I used to. Now I just don't care. No, but Dave also is an author. He co-wrote The Other Side, Teen's Guide to Ghost Hunting and the Paranormal. And let me get this straight. You're also on, I was trying to remember the show, and forgive me, Dave. I was trying to remember the show that was on the Travel Channel. You were the lead judge. The Paranormal Challenge. I had to go back into old Paranormal Vault, and I found some of that. That's a long time ago.
11
years.
So
Dave has been around a long time, guys. So welcoming him to the show, welcome Mr. Dave Schrader to Untold Radio AM.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, definitely our pleasure. We had a lot of fun with you at the Paracon in Duluth a couple months back. That was a hoot. That was a holler. Great meeting you, by the way. But Dave, what the heck, man? What got you into this? I mean, you obviously had a radio career going. You could have not done paranormal radio, done like sportscasting, something else if you chose to.
No,
what got you into it?
I did college radio in Winona, Minnesota at KQAL 89.5, your radio alternative. And I just recently stumbled upon old air check tapes from 1988 and 89 and 90 when I was on the air. And I could not have done radio. I thought I was a lot better than I was re-listening to those tapes now. So I went out of radio. Tim Dennis, my co-host and producer for Darkness Radio, stayed in it. And it just so happened that at the end of 2005, he had an opening beginning January 1st for a 1-hour spot. And he said, hey, do you want to do radio together again? I said, yeah, let's do a paranormal talk show. Really, at that time, all I knew of was Coast to Coast. I wasn't very tech savvy, so I wasn't following the beginnings of podcasts. And, and then I found Jim Harold and Ghostly Talk, Night Watch. I think those were the only other paranormal podcasts out there. So we launched, and we never looked back. We started January 1st, 2006, and we've just continued to put the show on and be out there for, going on 16 years here.
Were you a paranormal investigator first or paranormal radio host first? Which happened?
Well, I've been a paranormal experiencer throughout my whole life. I had experiences when I was about 2.5 years old, seeing my grandmother's ghost would come to visit me. I had a Bigfoot encounter when I was about, I don't know, probably 11 or 12 out in Foley, Alabama. I had a UFO encounter in 2006. And I grew up in a haunted house. So it's been around me, but I didn't really start investing myself in investigating until we started with Darkness Radio. Then I figured, well, why just sit here and listen to people tell me their stories? I want to go be a part of the story. If James Gilliland tells me that at his Isetti Ranch, you have a 90 to 95% chance of seeing UFO activity over his property, how could I not go? So
right. Sign me up.
Yeah, I went and I had
mean,
UFO encounters.
That's a steep claim, 90 to 95%.
Yep.
And did it hold water?
Yes, certainly did. As a matter of fact, every time I went there, I had such weird, profound experiences that I was friends with the kids from Paranormal State TV show, and they ended up doing an episode. They called it their field trip. I took them away from hunting demons, and we went out UFO and alien hunting for an episode. So it's Paranormal State. It was an episode called First Contact. And we went out and we caught strange things in the sky signaling us and flying overhead. It was pretty remarkable.
Man, that is cool. See, now ghosts, they don't really bother me. I mean, because I've experienced them quite a bit in my own life, and you kind of take that in stride, but aliens bug the living hell out of me because they can come down and get you. Like come and get you.
So can ghosts. I've been knocked on my butt repeatedly by spirits. So I would say that, there's danger in all of this, but it's, again, the excitement of kind of going out there and exploring. And that's really all I'm looking to do. Sure. I just want to get out there and be a part of the mix. I went to Stardust Ranch on an episode of Ghost Adventures. And while they were investigating a house, they talked about this mountain across from them where huge UFO lights are seen hovering over and what the people called motherships. So I went out there and turned in my cell phone, turned in my walkie-talkies, and I just stood out there on that mountain by myself because I figured if they're that intelligent, they're going to know if I have a way to call for help. So I just turned it all in and I stood there and I saw things and heard things moving around me, and I had a pretty remarkable night. So I just think it's, life's short. Try to get as much out of it as you can and explore and challenge paradigms. And where I started 16 years ago with the show to where I am today with Darkness Radio, I've evolved a lot. My mind is opened to different concepts and ideas of what all these things are.
Very cool, man. Doug, what do you think, man?
Yeah, I'm curious, Dave. I read where you saw one of these wing-type humanoid things or winged creatures, and I saw one with Yvette. And when you see something yourself, and although I scoffed at every report I ever heard of
right
before, and then, ma'am, you talk about humbled. I want to hear. Let's just get right into it. Tell us about that experience if you're willing.
Sure. I had gone to the Isetti Ranch, and when I'd first gotten there, it was cloudy the first night, and I pulled up onto the property, and James Gilliland showed me around, and he's like, here's Mount Adams, and that's where we believe they use this dormant volcano as a UFO landing hotspot. And of course, you're hearing this, and it just sounds so absurd and so casual. It's just like, oh, and down at the corner is Denny's. There's a hotel, and then the volcano is where the UFOs park. So it sounds ludicrous. But I stood there and watched as these multicolored things would flash in the clouds above the volcano. So I tried to rationalize it, saying, well, listen, there's obviously some kind of pressure front with this weather and the clouds. There's probably natural gases escaping from the dormant volcano, so it's going to create some kind of phenomena. So I discounted that. The next night I came out, we had clear nights, and I'm watching things zip through the skies and bank at crazy angles and take off and flash at us. And on the last night I was there, I walked out in the middle of the field and turned around because I figured we're always focused at Mount Adams. What's going on in the other part of the sky behind us? We're only watching half the sky. Jeez. And I turned around and I stood out there for about an hour, and I saw there was this grove of pine trees, and from shooting out from behind these pine trees, it looked like a manta ray, the way it swam through the sky, because it kind of undulated and moved through the sky, but there was no tail. And it was glowing blue. It didn't radiate light, like it wasn't lighting up the sky. It was just radiating itself, and it swam across the sky and disappeared. And it looked so weird to me. I thought this guy's, he's got to be projecting laser lights on a screen between those trees. So I went running as fast as I could towards the trees, grabbing rocks and throwing rocks between the trees, listening to hear if I could hear like the sound of a screen up there. There's nothing there. I go back to James, and he had this big smile on his face, and he goes, "What'd you see?" And I explained the same thing. I said, "It looked like a big flying manta ray, glowing blue." He goes, "Oh yeah, that's a half biologic, half machine craft. That's how they get in between dimensions." Now, I just saw this thing, and I thought this guy sounded like a lunatic, but I have no other explanation for what this was, what I saw. It was amazing. This thing just glided through the sky, and there it was. And I saw it, and I've tried to wrap my head around it for 15 years now.
So it wasn't a humanoid, but more of a ocean creature.
The way it moved through the sky, if you look at the way stingray and manta ray swim, that kind of, their whole body kind of ripples and moves. That's how this thing, streaked across the sky. So yeah, I wouldn't say humanoid necessarily. I know on the episode, they suddenly start talking about bat squatch on that episode of Paranormal State. And I had never heard of that aspect of the paranormal up there. So they were looking into that as a potential object, which I guess is like a Bigfoot with bat wings. So I don't know if he's the protector of the night in that part of the town. I'm bat squatch.
Now, go ahead, sir.
I was just gonna finish up. So how big was this thing? I mean, it was a manta ray-like creature, acting organic, but yet mechanical. How big?
Well, I was probably 100 yards away from it, and it looked like it was the center part of my palm, as big as that in the sky. So this thing had to be huge.
That was pretty big.
Yeah, to look that big.
And you do realize there's a whole number of people, including some scientists, who are aware that there's things, organic creatures, maybe living in probably our biggest ecosystem that we have, which is from the ground 300 miles up. It's like an ecosystem, unexplored.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was a biological craft that gets between dimensions. I don't know if I just saw a giant flying, swimming manta ray in the sky. I can't tell you, Doug. I don't know. I've looked into it. I've heard other people talk about seeing similar things, like these jellyfish-like creatures and other underwater creatures that appear to be in the sky.
Yeah. And that's a great story. And isn't it humbling when things like that happen? When you see something so odd.
It takes you, it's the most surreal thing in the world because it takes you out of your everyday life.
Yeah.
And it just puts you firmly in this kind of where you're straddling two different dimensions. And I'm like, I don't know what to make of what just happened or what I'm seeing, what's happening. And then it makes you think. And that's, I like when that part of my brain gets engaged, when I get that holy beep moment. Yeah. And then I spend, hours and days and now years just pondering it and working it through my head.
Well, the fact that this other guy apparently knew, at least he had obviously heard of it, or other people had seen it, or he wouldn't have had a theory.
Right. Well, James has been friendly with these visitors for a long time, and he's seen many different species, and he just, he seems to know. And again, it sounds insane when you hear it until you see something like this and you're like, that's crazy, but I saw it. I can't explain it. It was there 1 minute, gone the next. Did it just happen to pop in between dimensions for a few seconds? Is it fluttered through? And I don't know. I'm stymied by it still.
Would you say they're extra dimensionals and not necessarily extraterrestrials?
I think then we're just nitpicking, right? I mean, what is interdimensional, extra-dimensional, extraterrestrial? Obviously, there's something not of our planet that I'm aware of. But then again, there are so many things in the ocean that I don't think we know about. All these USOs, the underwater submersible objects or unidentified submersible objects that have been seen zipping along, and they blow out of the water and take off at insane speeds, or they come flying in at an insane rate and hit the water. But with that said, I want to say, Doug, I'm a movie fan. I know you guys are. You were talking about it a little bit ago. The new James Bond movie, No Time to Die, they show a craft that they're flying that it kind of tilts and goes into the water. Now, I understand it's a James Bond movie, but my understanding as well is that they have based most of the James Bond technology on real things. So I don't know. Maybe we do have craft that can go in and out of water at breakneck speeds. The government tells us no in the new documents, right? That we don't know what's causing this or why it's there, but it's definitely there. So I'm baffled, but it's exciting to think about the possibilities. And I'm guessing if there's civilization, they may have been here all along. So they may not be extraterrestrials. They may be terrestrials we just have yet to discover.
Yeah, sure. We saw a UFO come out of our lake. Two of us came right out of the lake and shot right up in the sky in the middle of the afternoon. And when you see something like that, you're like, do I want to swim anymore? Ever?
Did you knock the bong over when you jumped up to look at it? Oh, okay.
Don't even do that stuff.
Oh, good. See, I got to ask the questions.
Sober. And the beautiful thing, though, at least, I had a witness. You didn't have a witness.
No.
So that drives you even more crazy. But when you have a witness, it tends to relieve you questioning yourself. Because if I would have seen that alone, I would have.
All of us were there that whole couple of days, so we had all seen so many crazy things at that point. Even what I described, people were more like, damn it, I missed it. Why didn't I see it? And of course, I get the picture. Why didn't you take a picture? Why didn't you whip out your video?
Yeah.
Because I did not want to stop looking long enough to fish for my phone, pop it open up the camera, and take a picture. Plus, it was 2006, so I think I had a flip phone then, Doug, which was maybe a 1.5 pixel flip phone.
Yeah.
So I would have ended up with a black sky and a streak of something in the sky. And sure, let's face it, the skies are not conducive even for good phones that are out now. They're not. You just can't take good pictures.
Yeah, there's still
night sky.
Tiny lenses.
Yep.
0.6 millimeters. Cell phones are the worst thing ever for the paranormal.
Well, no, they're the best now, Doug, because if Bigfoot exists and UFOs exist, we should be able to capture them with our phone. That's what the skeptics say.
Right.
Well, when you're in the moment of seeing a Bigfoot, or you're in the moment of seeing a craft in the sky, the last thing you're thinking is, oh my God, I need a camera. Or you hear the people that think that, and then they look down and grab their phone and they look up and it's gone. So I would rather, I know the paranormal is technology driven and people love to focus on all the technology to help them explore. But what I found is I want to be in the minute. This is about my experience. I don't give a flying flip if you guys believe me. I had it. It was amazing to me. So I want to be aware and in that moment. So I've got that forever. And I don't have a picture that most likely I'm going to show you and you're going to go, I can't tell what that is. And now I've got a picture that is not worthy of showing anybody. And I took some of the time away from being in that moment as well.
Being self-convinced is much better than convincing others.
Exactly.
Having that moment, just you in that moment. I mean, everyone else be damned.
Well, and everybody always wants, everybody knows, well, what do you tell a skeptic? Nothing. Skeptics are just believers that don't have their own experience yet. And almost everybody has something weird happen to them in their lives they can't explain. So I'll just wait until you catch up. But in the interim, it's okay for me to believe this. It's funny though, the delineation lines we draw, right? I can say I've seen ghosts, I've seen Bigfoot, I've seen a UFO, I've seen an alien craft. Then you start talking about fairies and pukwudgies and elves and I roll my eyes and
don't forget about Dogman.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, but that's kind of in that cryptid. So I'm still, a lot of people are willing to jump that shark with us because it's still an animal that maybe we're just misunderstanding. But when you talk about the fairy realm and some of these other things, Rosemary Ellen Guiley challenged me, why do I draw the line there? So I stopped drawing the line.
Yeah.
I'm open to all these experiences because there are things, these fairy folk and fae folk things have predated most ghost stories. So maybe there's something to them. Maybe they're part of the ghost landscape. Maybe they're part of the alien landscape. Maybe they're part of the cryptozoological landscape. Or maybe they're just their own little subsect and they're cool. examine them all, and what makes sense, great, and what doesn't, I don't need to put anybody down about. I don't have to, besmirch them, but that's where it stands. Dogmen, sure, why not? Listen, that experience that happened in Wisconsin, about 10 to 14 years ago, where the road worker was picking up carcasses and threw the deer carcass in the back, and as he was sitting there fidgeting with his phone, he felt something hit the back of his truck, and he looked and saw this large, hairy, humanoid dog-like creature jump in the back, grab the carcass, and take off running. Well, this guy wasn't drunk. He's a city worker. He grew up in that area. He knew what he was looking at, and this was nothing like any other animal he'd seen. So lycanthropy and werewolf stories go back centuries. Could there be something to this? Could it be interdimensional, like Bigfoot? Could it be an alien species like Bigfoot? I don't know.
That's the thing, though.
It goes back to the Egyptians.
But as a human species, we have to analyze, right? We have to analyze everything.
But let's analyze, but it doesn't mean we have to pigeonhole it, and it doesn't mean we have to.
I was just about to say that, but sometimes you got to set aside your analyzation for a minute and just take it as it is at face value, just for that minute, and listen to these people that have no reason to lie to you. That city worker has no reason to lie to you, because he's risking everything by telling this crazy story, what could be a crazy story. That really gets me when the witness comes to me. They have everything to lose and nothing to gain to tell their story. I mean,
and the ones that want to tell you the story but don't want you to bring up their name or talk about it, because, again, they don't want their credibility shaken. They don't want to be considered mental in any way, but they have to share the story because it was that real to them. So, I think the storytelling aspect, the oral tradition that we've lost in our world of sharing these stories, maybe they're tulpas in a sense. Maybe these creatures only gain strength as we talk about them and acknowledge them more.
Dave, but you're a modern day storyteller again. See, it's coming back. It's flipping around, because obviously we do it in a different way now. We do it through TV, radio, podcasts. But do you have any idea how many scientists I'm meeting every week now who are finally willing to at least talk to somebody like me? Maybe not go public, but they're investigating these things. They were doing it on their own dime, their own time.
Well, look at the abuse poor Dr. Melba Kepchem took. She was all she wanted to do was try to seek the truth, and she was telling you what she was, and people just derailed her and talked down about her, and I think she's a wonderful woman who is very an eloquent speaker and can really convey what she's doing and why she's doing it.
But the things that you've done throughout your career, you've probably had a bigger impact than a lot of people on storytelling and getting information out to the general public. People who are just driving home, grocery shopping, the average guy turned on the radio, listened to Darkness Radio, heard some intriguing story that got him then online looking. You know what I mean? Think about all the people that you probably got them at least interested in some of the mysteries that surround us. I mean,
I hope so, and that's great. And it's funny because we were talking about, and again, I don't know where you put these. Are these aliens? Are they cryptids? Are they demonic? But we were talking about the black-eyed kid phenomena on our show for many years. We were one of the first shows to delve into it. And we started sharing stories, and people started sharing stories. And it got so impactful. And Doug, you're from Minnesota, so we can relate to this. This was probably like about 7-8 years ago. We'd had just about 2 weeks of just rain. People were building arcs in Minnesota. It was getting so bad. And we had a couple that used to listen to our show. They would watch the 9 o'clock news. They'd go to bed at 10, turn on the radio, and listen to Darkness Radio as they fell asleep. And they were just a wonderful couple. They said that one night they turn off the TV. It's 10 o'clock at night. They hear kids outside giggling and running around. And the husband's kind of grumpy, and he says, well, what the hell? Why are these kids out there at 10 o'clock at night? And she says, honey, listen, it's been raining nonstop for 2 weeks. The parents probably just need them to get out and burn off some steam. We used to play in puddles and run around in the rain. It's not a big deal. Let's just go to bed. They go to bed about 3 o'clock in the morning. She rolls over and wakes up, and standing next to her bed are these 3 children. There's 2 boys and a girl in the middle with braided pigtails. And they're staring at her. She goes, okay, listen, I've listened to your show enough to know about the hypnagogic and hypnopompic states, those moments going in and out of sleep when most people think they're having an alien abduction scenario. That's when dream world and reality kind of mesh and come together for a few seconds. So she goes, I know, I'm going to close my eyes, take a deep cleansing breath, and when I open my eyes, they'll be gone. Mm-hmm. She opens her eyes, they're still there. So she opens her mouth to scream, and the little girl in the middle steps forward and pushes her finger to her lips and says, shh, we just want to look at you.
Gee, that ain't creepy.
She screams. The husband jumps up. They turn around. The kids are gone. They go every room of the house turning on lights. Well, so here, the best part of the story to me wasn't even that. It was a great, creepy story. But a few nights later, we come down from our radio station, and there's 2 cop cars parked outside the station in front of our cars. And the guy goes, are you Dave Schrader? I'm like, yeah. And he goes, is Tim Dennis here? Yeah. So I call Tim down, and I'm thinking, oh my God, somebody's dead. The cops are here to tell us. And he goes, hey, we're big fans. We listen to your show all the time. We don't believe in any of this paranormal stuff. And he goes, but we love to listen to the stories. We love the way you guys engage the audience. And we heard that story the other night about the black-eyed kids, and then you went to commercial break. And he goes, and then over our radio, we get a call that there's an elderly woman complaining that there are 3 teenage kids in her yard she doesn't know, and they won't go away. Ooh. And he goes, so the 2 of us look at each other, and we shake our heads and turn the radio off and said, oh, screw that. And they wouldn't go. And I'm like, that's awesome. So even the skeptics were affected by the power of a story.
Yeah. I mean, I remember back where there was the Art Bell show.
Do you love hearing stories about your friend's dating life? Or maybe you're the one sharing ridiculous dating encounters. If you fit either of these scenarios, then you need to check out You Up Podcast from Betches Media. Hey, I'm Jared Freed.
And I'm Jordana Abraham, and we're the hosts of You Up Podcast. We're here to share the funniest dating stories from listeners just like you. From awkward first dates to awkward sexual encounters, we're here to guide you through it all.
You can listen to You Up Podcast from Betches Media on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Yeah, Coast to Coast AM. Yeah.
Coast to Coast AM, and then you guys. So you were definitely a pioneer in all this storytelling. I got into it professionally in 99, I guess, 2000. So I was definitely, early too, because I remember, you didn't exactly brag about it at a party. If you were at just a normal party, what you did, but still things have changed because of the programming that you've done. How many people do you think you've reached by now?
I think we're up to 20 to 30 by now, Doug.
At least.
At least. That's just my family. My family. I don't know. We get around 35,000 downloads right after a show airs, and then it just slowly climbs from there. So we have some that are in the hundreds of thousands of downloads per episode, and then you could see the topics. We try to stray away from some now because the more metaphysical we get, our numbers plummet. So,
sure.
Sometimes I'm cautious on what we bring in, which is weird to me. Again, why do people draw that line? When you realize if you embrace the metaphysical, it might open you up to more experiences of all different types.
But okay, so 15 years of doing this, and it's in the millions. How many people could you have talked to 100 years ago?
Probably not many.
Not many.
Oh,
that 20 or 30 that you mentioned. Yeah. Now it's 30 million every year.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
What's your hot button topic? What brings them out? What brings them out of the woodwork for your show?
I wish I knew it. It was really funny. We started once in a while, we'd throw an episode up on YouTube, a free episode. They're all free, but, for people to find us that wouldn't find us normally, because some people that love YouTube, man, they'll go down those rabbit holes for hours and won't go listen to podcasts, but they'll listen to it if it's on YouTube. So we started to notice that, I'd put up a demon episode, a ghost episode, a Bigfoot episode, and an alien episode. And the Bigfoot episodes would go 10, 20,000 more downloads than anything else. And we're like, wow, that's crazy. And we noticed there were people pirating our shows and throwing them up on YouTube for a while. We got that shut down, but we noticed the cryptid shows always seem to be bigger draws, which is interesting to me with the advent of how many ghost shows are on TV and the popularity. You would think that would be the main crux, but I guess maybe they get enough of that, and then you only have one or two cryptid style shows on, so they're looking for more outlets. So cryptid has been a big one, but it just depends, and it depends on the guest. I mean, I did a show recently with Jeff Belanger talking about The Conjuring and Amityville and some of these other shows, and it blew up. And you'd think, boy, those have been kicked to death, but people are still fascinated. And if there's one more nugget of information to glean from it, they're going to find it.
I think with ghosts, people feel like you can only learn so much. You know what I mean? And most people believe in ghosts. I believe most people do. They've just had, because really, where did we all come from? Where are we all going to go? I mean, I'm not going to probably turn into a Bigfoot when I die.
But I think, Doug, the reason why people are so intrigued and enthralled with ghosts is because it's what happens to us after we die. It's answering that deeper question. Do I continue? I mean, that's also part of why people, I think, are very drawn to ghostly activity, because maybe it's reaffirming that, okay, when I die and I lay my head down for the last time, that's not it. There's a possibility there could be more.
No. I'm not saying people aren't intrigued with ghosts. I'm saying that most people already believe in ghosts. So you don't have to really be convinced. So if I see a ghost, I'm probably not necessarily going to start researching scientifically what they are.
Right. You're going to be so there's less information about these, less ideas. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it really would be cool if there was a true super hardcore science show on ghosts.
Well, here you say that, right? And here's what I find is funny. When I have scientists come on the show to talk about metaphysical things and ghosts and what are the possibilities or probabilities, everybody says they want the science. Yep. Everybody demands the science.
But it doesn't.
We will lose 2/3 of our audience because 2/3 of our audience don't understand what the scientist is speaking about.
Right.
So I'm not belittling that crowd, but they're not built for the information. And if I get on a show, Doug, and I go, listen, Doug, thanks for having me on here today. Joel, it's a pleasure to be here. Now let's talk about the nano-secular visionary pixelization of what a true dominatrix UFO construct could be. And we do that by breaking it down into the parteenth of the 40th compound on the. All of a sudden, people are like, "Oh, I don't know what any of that."
Massive click on the radio,
right? And it just it shuts. They want to hang in. And then they're like, this is too much. Just tell me it's a ghost. You die, your body dies, and your spirit steps out of you, and you haunt a building. And that's truly what people just want. I think it's exciting. There are scientists, engineers, and people that are finding ways to communicate.
I do think there could be some simple science applied to ghost shows that would be very simple, very cool ones that everybody could get. Have a pressure sheet covering the floor in a haunted house, and then having activity and seeing if there's any pressure anywhere. Simple things. That's what
we have done that on some of these shows. They've come up with some, and there's engineers that are building new technology to try to do that. But the problem is, science doesn't like something. Like if Doug, if I tell you the hotel room I'm in is crazy haunted, like I've seen severed heads flying across and this and that and the other. Science wants to take it into the lab. Well, you can't take this hotel room into the lab. Right. And they don't want to do it in the hotel room because then it's not in their control. And it could be, it could be this, it could be that, it could be this. And they refuse to acknowledge sometimes it's all the things you're saying is what's contributing to what's taking place here. If you're in a place that's rich in minerals, there's an underground water current that could be creating an energetic static. And there happens to be copper on top of it and quartz. It could be charging that up, which could be giving a magnetic template for spirits to be stronger. Could it be that if we are an electromagnetic form in our soul form, could it be that in some of these places, when we leave the body, our soul is trapped here because it's such a strong magnetic pull. We can't just go. So because of this is what's taking place. Can we find a way to disrupt those electromagnetic patterns to free souls from a structure or a location? So I think there's a lot that goes into that in science, and we're working on that as well with our shows. We're trying to push paradigms and new ideas. But then, if I create an anti-electromagnetic gun that'll kind of cascade an area and break up that magnetic form, does your spirit now become in danger? Because with this waveform, it releases the hold on the land, but does it disrupt your soul and shatter you? And then do I have the right to afterlifers knocking on my door? You're killing ghosts. You're killing ghosts. So we don't know enough about what we don't know enough about yet.
Yeah.
Well, what are some of the high-tech gadgets that are currently used? Can you do a laundry list for ghosts?
Sure. Well, they do have grid patterns, light patterns that if something passes through, it'll set an alarm.
Right.
It also is a visual representation, so if something cuts through it, you can see it. There are REM pods, there are EMF detectors, tri-field detectors, tools that were not made specifically for ghost hunting, but we're finding that there are secondary uses that in places where there are spiritual activity, sometimes they're able to manipulate these tools. So people that scoff at the use of tools on TV have to realize that a lot of these tools were not made for ghost hunting. We found other ways to use them, right? It doesn't mean that, well, why is he using a screwdriver to hammer that nail in? Because I don't have a hammer, but I had the screwdriver and I can use the butt. It doesn't mean I can't use that as a tool. So you find other ways to utilize the things that you've got. But there's different types of recorders that record in sound spectrums we can't hear and compress them in a way that allows us to hear them. There are cameras that see in full visual spectrums. But that's where my science is weak, Doug, because if I can videotape in all of the visual spectrums and then I play it back, my eyes can still only detect this, 6-inch pattern of visual spectrum. Maybe I'm not seeing the ghosts in the rest because, again, my eyes aren't capable of it. So there are some cameras that are trying to filter that and make sense of the noise that's taking place in other visual perspectives. So there's a lot of different equipment out there. There's Ovilus, which is a tool that has a bunch of words built into it. Each word has like a mathematic equation. It's set so it's not to repeat itself. But when it starts repeating itself in a location, if I take this in with me and there's no GPS locator in it, this tool has no way of knowing where I'm at, and I turn it on and it says hooker, brothel, John, money, shot. And I'm standing in a brothel in Nevada where a guy was shot and, there were prostitutes there. How did that pick up on that? Is it that the spirits have found a way to communicate and trigger those words? Or is it our own expectations? That's part of it too. We don't understand how powerful we really are as humans. Are we influencing this equipment with our intentions and getting answers that we expect to get?
That very well could be the case. I do know I've been in radio since I was 16 years old, been a sound engineer forever. And that Radio Shack hack, when that came out, guys are, you got to listen to this. I hear static. I've been listening to static my whole life, unfortunately. And they're hearing words, and I'm telling them, no, you're not hearing words. You want to hear words. It's not there.
And this is
not there.
But I'll tell you, Joel, you're wrong. Because I've used that.
School me on this, because I'll listen to that, okay? And I will sit there.
It's when it's on a high sweep range, and you're in a location, if you're in a basement where you can't get radio frequency and it's going through, and I say, I'm in Doug Hijack's basement. He's gone now. And I say, who's here? Doug Hijack. The chances that those two words just happen to be spoken over a radio, and then I play back the recorder and it is there. It's not my ears playing tricks on me. And you can hear these verbalizations. To me, there's something to that. Remember, spirits don't have vocal cords. So they have something they need to impress upon. And what's interesting is when you record good EVP through a spirit box, you'll notice that the sound is kind of over the top of the as it's doing its sweep. You'll hear Doug hijack, right? You hear it come over the top, almost like a walkie-talkie, but not. So what they're using is that frequency. They're using it like a vocalization technique, like a voice box, an electric voice box, to impress what they're trying to say. That's the only way I can understand it. And I've been working in radio since '88 as well. I was a big skeptic of it, but when I get direct responses to questions, and I don't ask how many are there of you here, what is it, because you're going to hear, hey, it's 6:17 in the afternoon. There's a 3-car pileup on 694. 2 people are killed. You're going to hear numbers come out of there. I don't pay as much attention to that, but when I can say, what happened to you? Shot. And that's the only word that comes out. And we're in a place, standing in the spot where Doug was shot by a Bigfoot. And it says these things. To me, there's something to it. It's not just something you can easily dismiss. Some of it, yeah.
Like my small exposure to it, because I'm when it comes to that end of the radio part of it, I go, I don't know. But people ask my opinion of it, but they'll say, well, who's the president of the United States? Well, what's the odds that somewhere on that radio tuner they're talking about the president, right? Things very common, very
but if you're in an
said
old place,
many times.
But if you're in an old place and it says Roosevelt,
then that'd be different. See, I think it's the questions not being asked,
right?
That needed to be asked, rather than who's the president of the United States. And of course, someone's going to say, who's the quarterback of Minnesota Vikings? Somewhere on there, they'll be talking about Kirk Cousins. It's just those common things. And that's where I think the tool might get misused in my presence, the time I did have exposure to it, where I want to hear something I know damn well would never be on the... Tell me fuck. Excuse my language, but I want to hear that on the radio waves. I want to hear something I know would never be broadcasted on any radio wave anywhere.
And that's when I started having the moments, because again, you and I know FCC license laws. We know what goes on, what you can and can't say, even at certain times at night. We're in the basement of the Palmer House Hotel. We're down in the door room. You get no reception. It's literally just as it's sweeping the dials looking for a signal. You also have to realize that it's sweeping at such a rate that you're going to get a part of a word. You're not going to get whole sentences. So when you start getting whole sentences, whole messages, it's impossible, because it just went over 20 stations in that moment.
Exactly.
As we're talking, there was a woman that we ghost hunted with who was there all the time. The spirits down in the door room did not like her. And a gentleman we were with had an English accent, and as he's talking through the box, we all very clearly heard it say, "Who's the limey?"
You need a work schedule that fits your life, and Amazon has shifts that help you make the best use of your time. Whether you're a night owl, early bird, weekend warrior, or somewhere in between, discover the benefits of thinking outside the 9 to 5. You decide whether to seize the day or the night, so you can get back to what matters most. Go to Amazon.com/shifts to learn more. That's Amazon.com/SHIFTS. Amazon is an equal opportunity employer.
And that's not a term you would normally hear from
it's 1920s.
Then all of a sudden, and he's an English guy with this accent, right? Then the door opens, Lisa starts coming down the stairs, and I go, "Oh, Lisa's here. What do you think of that?" And clear as day, it goes, "She's a C word," and it said it out loud. It didn't say C word. It said C. Word. So to me, then it's like, okay, this is obviously not stray radio. And the fact that I asked that question and that's the immediate response, that's, it wasn't like I ask a question and wait 5 minutes and then something is said that, well, hey, that could be the answer to the question I asked 8 minutes ago. It's got to be like a conversation.
At one time, you were where I was then, because knowing radio the way we do, we know exactly what you can and cannot get away with.
Right.
And that's why I want to hear the dirty. I want to hear something I know no program director is going to allow on the radio.
Your partner just wants to hear dirty words now.
Hey, man, I love George Carlin, and if he was around, I'd love to hear him on radio.
So who developed EVPs? Who was the first person to discover it?
Well, I believe if we go back, I think it was Rawdive. There were a bunch of people that did this, and you got to remember, and I'm sorry, the names escape me offhand, and I feel embarrassed for that, but they were recording. This is at the beginning of recording. He was recording bird song. And he would be in an area where there was nobody, and he's recording bird song, and he would get words. he would hear voices. Alexander Rodive, I believe. And then, it's killing me now. The names have totally blown out of my head.
Wasn't it his mother's voice, if I remember right, the story?
Could be. Yeah.
I think, yeah.
I've heard so many stories over 16 years of doing this that they start to break apart for me. But, or was it Constantine Rodive? One of those. But it's amazing the information. And you see that this was before there was a lot of stray radio frequency that would have been interfering with these things. Mm-hmm. And they're recording voices. It's like UFOs. It's real easy to dismiss things now because we've got spy satellites and we've got Goodyear blimps and we've got weather balloons. But what about 300-400 years ago?
Yeah.
There was
none of that going on out there. Very limited, if at all, was being broadcasted.
So, but EVP, that's been around for quite a while. They've recorded these disembodied voices. You get these moments where something intelligent seems to be recording, and you can't see it. You can't hear it out loud, but it plays back on the recorder, which is a magnetic frequency. So again, that plays into are we an electromagnetic form as a spirit?
Right. Yep. Well, it does make sense.
Let me tell you.
I've got one more dumb question because I'm coming at this from more of a novice. Has anybody recorded like an EVP on video, the old videotape?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's EVP. There's also something interesting that they've done, Doug, where they've taken the old video cameras. They'll put them on, hook them to your TV, put it on channel 3, so you're just seeing static and static and static and static, and they'll talk. And please, I'm trying to speak to the ghost of Doug. Doug, are you there? Doug, can we pass a message on to your family? What do you have to tell us? And they go back and they watch the video frame by frame. And damn it, if there aren't scenes where all of a sudden, clear as day, you see Doug's face appear on your TV screen.
So that's happened before.
Right. So that's the and there's, some of the TV shows, we'll be sitting there with our recorders recording and get nothing. But afterwards, the sound guy's like, dude, there was whispering around you the whole time. And sure enough, they play that in the episode where you can hear he's got his good microphones out there and he's got the boom mic and we're talking. We ask a question and we can't hear anything, but he's hearing coming through the microphone. It's picking up these voices. So they have picked them up on video camera. They have picked them up on audio. They picked them up on reel to reel and cassette. They picked them up on digital and analog. So it just doesn't seem like there's one way to to capture this phenomena.
Is there any kind of like sound frequency that a person can play to bring out ghost activity or basically flush mice out?
Yeah, theoretically there are some tones that they found that might amp up. Sometimes they're I'm trying to remember. There's like the Devil's Note is one of them that they play this just horrific kind of minor note, and you get really weird feelings.
Is that the weird thing that's going around TikTok right now?
Could be. I'm not much on it. Yeah, but there's some of this that an infrasound. They've been working with infrasound in some of these investigations now, and seeing if they can record it through laser light, through different forms of audible wavelengths that might be picked up. But then you also have to remember that we have to be very cautious. I grew up in a haunted house, Doug. At night, I slept with a fan on in my bedroom because it was the 70s and we didn't have central air, right? But at night, down in my dark bedroom, when I turned on that fan and I'd be laying there, all of a sudden I'd hear what sounded like conversations and sometimes clinking glasses and the background music, but just enough that I couldn't tell, but it sounded like a party. And I would talk to my friends and neighbors and they're like, I hear that in our basement all the time at night. That's crazy. You hear that? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, but it's only when the fan is on. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking, oh, wow. So that fan created a white template noise so the spirits could be heard. But what do we have? Party spirits?
Fans also, they do create infrasound. Fans.
Right. Exactly. So then I'm thinking, well, what is this? And then as an adult, it hit me Doug, at the end of my street where I grew up was Medina Golf Course, which is a huge PGA golf course. It's a huge pavilion where they put on parties and cotillions and PGA tournaments. And there's something there every night of the week. So sound, what we're saying right now, goes out to the universe. But as it gets further away, it gets bigger and loopier. You can't hear it. But now these sound waves are hitting the back of the fan, which is working like an eardrum. Then is working like a sound template, and it's carrying those sound waves a little bit more concise, but still not enough to specifically hear what's being said or what music is being played. So you have to realize that there are fallible moments. Is there something nearby that could be creating this false positive?
Interesting. So, yeah, I grew up in the dark basement, too, the dark basement bedroom. As soon as I think I was 9, down in the basement.
Sure.
I wonder how many of us in the paranormal world that are interested in this started with basement bedrooms. The other thing I've noticed is rooms with bunk beds seem to be portals to different realms as well. As funny as that sounds, how many people that have bunk beds have had paranormal experiences in those rooms? I don't know if it's IKEA's fault or who, but something weird is definitely happening.
Are we, I got to ask you, Dave, are we any closer to the answers than we were 100 years ago when it comes to ghosts?
Absolutely not. I don't know. I don't think so. I think here's the real problem, guys. It's a problem and it's a blessing. My mom was into the paranormal with me. My mom knows my overwhelming fear of death throughout my life. And as she lay on her deathbed and I held her hand, I said, "Mom, have you seen Grandpa or Grandma?" "Nope." "Has anybody come to visit?" "Nope." "Okay." And then one day as we're just sitting there, and she looks up and she goes, Oh my God, that's so beautiful, as she's looking up at the sky. And I said, "What?" And then she kind of shook herself out of it and looked at me and she's like, "Oh, nothing." And I was like, "Well, what the hell?" "And Mom, you're going to tell me, I need you to make communication from the other side." "Oh yeah." And I've never felt her presence near me. Other people have. And I've thought, well, why them? Why would they feel it? And then I realized it. You know what? Some things we're not meant to know. Because I've fought depression and anxiety my whole life. I've had that gun in my mouth, literally. And maybe if I know there's something else, maybe next time I pull the trigger.
Yeah.
Maybe next time I step off the stool. Maybe next time I swallow the pills. Because, there's something. I'll see Mom and I have something else. Maybe this is Mom's way of keeping me grounded. So if she's like, "Oh yeah, and heaven's great, you're going to love it here. Everybody's here." Maybe that's not my journey. Maybe my journey is, as Doug said, to be a storyteller, to stay here, be intrigued by it, ask questions, poke, probe, but never fully get the answers. And truthfully, do we really want the full answer? I mean, we get enough hints and secrets that it keeps us intrigued and excited. But if we get that full answer, first of all, half the world's not going to believe you. The other half is, and they're going to think that it's demons, or you're being betrayed by aliens, or you swallowed a leprechaun and you're hallucinating. So there's going to be no consensus in what happens. So I think it's all about what your journey is. What's your expectations? I have not seen my mother, but I've had experience in locations that I cannot deny happened. So I know the soul supersedes the physical form. But I also think there are things like time slips happening around us at all time, where we're mistaking these for ghosts. And really it's not. It's the fact that we're seeing reflections in time play out for a moment. And they may be seeing us, and that's why they thought the place was haunted.
Yeah, do you think it's possible that ghosts see us as ghosts?
Sure. We had a great story I tell all the time on our radio show. Guy, his grandparents bought this property. It was an old cornfield. They bought the property. It wasn't ancient Indian burial grounds. There was no war fought on there. It wasn't in the fields of Gettysburg. There was nothing. They built a house, lived in this house forever, and then one day Grandma's in the living room watching Jeopardy, and in walk these 3 shadowy figures. They walk in and stop in front of her, turn around and run out of the room. Now Grandma's house is haunted. Why would Grandma lie about this? So she tells these stories. Now we all start hearing things. Maybe we start hearing footsteps, and boy, that's crazy. Then his grandma passed away. About 2 or 3 years later, he and his 2 buddies walk into the living room, and there's his grandmother sitting in the chair. And the three of them look at each other and run out of the room. So who was haunting who in that moment? People think of ghosts being our past. Listen, this place that we live in, that we are sitting in, has always existed in time and space, and time is not linear on the other side. So maybe that banging you hear, the screams you hear, have nothing to do with the past. Maybe it's something that happens in the future. The next family that lives there.
Yep. Yeah, I a good story. I have a good friend of mine that was he was in the military for 20 years and he was stationed in Okinawa, and he talks about these old barracks from World War II, you know, just old stuff that's still there. And him and a few of his buddies, and they're sitting there and they watched these three people come in like you described, but they stopped. The one entity says to the other one, says, "I just think I just saw a ghost."
Right.
I mean, you know, and the guy's like, "No, I'm telling you right now, I could call up all my army buddies. We were all there. We saw it all. We all heard it." They come in, they perceived we were ghosts.
Yep. Waverly Hills Sanitarium in Louisville, Kentucky. They see the nurse ghosts. They've seen doctors' ghosts. And sometimes the nurses see you and run.
Yeah.
Why? It's a ghost. What's it afraid of? Well, it was haunted when it was a fully functioning hospital. Maybe Nurse Betty rounded the corner and there's Beavis and Butthead in their AC/DC and Metallica t-shirts going with their ghost equipment. And she's like, "What is this?" And she takes off running. So I think that we are running into those moments, those wrinkles in time. So I think there are many different elements of what's happening around us at all times. Sometimes I think it might be parallel universe. Maybe that's why we have these moments of deja vu, is that we've bumped into a moment that has happened in multiple timelines and we're remembering that moment.
Sure.
That hasn't happened for us here, but has happened for us elsewhere.
Have you experienced things that you know aren't a ghost, but like your wife being home when she's not?
Yes.
The dishes and
Yep.
you know, whatever she does when she comes home, her routine. But she's not home yet.
I wrote a whole article for this for a paranormal magazine called "Are We Haunting Ourselves?"
Yeah.
People talk about residual hauntings. Well, how does and residual haunting, for your listeners that aren't familiar, those are the hauntings where on the 3rd of May, every rainy Wednesday, you'll see the bride walk up to the cliff and jump off. And it's only on that specific day or time. Well, how does she know that that's the time to do it? You know, what is it cyclically about that? Maybe it's happening around us all the time. So tonight, Doug, you fall asleep in your chair, and you know, with the news on, your gal goes upstairs, goes to bed. She wakes up 2 hours later and hears clinking in the sink. She hears the toilet flush. She doesn't think twice about it because that's your MO. You go put your stuff in the sink, you go to the bathroom, brush your teeth. Then maybe you went to go let the dog out. But then she goes out and checks and you're sleeping in the chair. So what was she hearing? Probably just that energetic pattern playing itself out that you have woven into the tapestry of that location over and over.
I have firsthand experience in this. I worked a morning show forever. I get up at 3 a.m., go to work I happened to get sick. I was working for WKPR, not WKRP in Cincinnati, but this is Dallas, Texas. We used to, it was a long-running joke at this station. Anyhow, I get up every morning, be there by 3 a.m. to get the AP wire. This is back when the AP would come on the printer. Remember the printer? And you'd have to go out there, get your news, rip it up. Exactly. I happened to have the flu, and I wasn't able to go into work. And every morning I had a ritual. I'll get up, brush my teeth, you know, that normal thing. And you always do it half asleep. I was sick, and I heard somebody walking around my house. I didn't know who the hell it was. It turned out it was me.
Pop quiz. What's 80% air, soft where you want it, firm where you need it, made in a lab, and breathes? The GelFlex Grid. And only Purple mattresses have it. It's a super stretchy, ultra squishy material that adapts and flexes around pressure points and doesn't retain heat. Purple mattresses cradle, support, and soothe, giving you the best night's sleep ever. And right now, get a free set of sheets and a pillow with the purchase of select Purple mattresses at purple.com/sleepwell. Terms apply.
Myself. I saw a glimpse of myself briefly doing these things that I did for years, half asleep, getting ready for work. I only saw it one time and it freaked the living hell out of me.
Well, now some people would tell you that that's a doppelganger. Joel.
No, it was definitely me. It was me.
Evil shade of something of you pretending to be you.
Yeah, I hear you. You know, if I wanted to go to that dark place, yes, it's a doppelganger and it created itself, and now look at it.
I think he just had a mirror in front of him.
Yes, but strange things do happen. Odd things do happen, and three of the strangest things I ever saw in my life. Number one, Paul Harvey doing his show in one take in Dallas, Texas. Boom, done, left. Two was Cowboy Roy. When I met him, dead as a doornail, talked to me for a half hour, and the UFO that we saw in Duluth, and no one talked about it for a week until a buddy of mine says, "Hey, do you remember that thing that we saw in the sky a couple weeks back?" And that brings me to my next question, Dave. Okay. When people see UFOs, right? This is what happened to us. Three of us saw this UFO together. We watched it dance. We enjoyed it. We were like, "What the hell is that in the sky?" It was clearly a UFO. We even saw the windows on this craft. We go back in the building like nothing's amiss, right? Because we're all radio guys. We're taking our fiver. You know, we're all smoking at that time. Taking our fiver. We go back in. Nobody says anything for 2 weeks to each other until one of us goes, "Wait a minute. Do you remember that strange thing that happened a couple weeks back?" What's the deal with that, Dave? Why is there these sightings and then people don't talk about amongst each other for maybe weeks, months, or years until somebody breaks?
Momentary, maybe it's just like a momentary cloaking aspect of what's happening, where the aliens or the UFO or the Bigfoot are projecting an image so that you see it, but your brain doesn't really process it fully. It takes a while, and then once your brain and your subconscious continue to churn on it, then you're like, "Do you guys remember this?" And then it opens.
And that's how it happened. It was one of us remembered, and he jogged all of our memories. But then it was like all together, like, holy crap moment. Like it was all real at that point, and it was like a shared memory at that point. Is that real common? Do you hear a lot of that?
Sure.
Or is that...
Yeah, I hear that when it comes to UFOs and Bigfoot primarily. Not ghosts so much, but definitely Bigfoot and alien or UFO activity. So again, what are we talking about? Is it something they're doing to us? Is it, and maybe in all honesty, Joel, maybe you're witnessing it and your brain just can't process it at the speed it needs to. Mm-hmm. And that's not putting you down. That's everybody that's had that experience. You're like, "Huh, that's crazy. That's really nuts." And then you're just, what exactly, I saw that thing fly in the sky, Joel. I saw it.
Yeah.
And we still sit there going, that's impossible. There's no way that was a real thing. So, and that logic, you're trying to deal with something in an emotional state from a logical standpoint, and those two do not compute well together.
Sure. But since then, I've asked others, when you've had your encounter, did you talk about it right away? Some were like, "Well, yeah, right away. I mean, we were going crazy. We were talking to MUFON, and we were doing this." And others are like, "No, it took us about a month or two before, one of us finally had that moment of remembering. But then it brought us all into it because we almost all remembered at the same time after that."
Right. Yep.
Well, and it just seems to run the gamut.
There's tons of cases too where three people will see something really weird, and one or two of those people will have no memories. Just none. Or they'll deny it. Have you ever had somebody, Dave, tell you a story? Something really amazing. And then 2 years later, they're like, "I never said that."
Well, and then does that fall into another weird phenomena called the Mandela effect?
Right.
We did shows long ago. We titled our episode "Who Brought Kirk Douglas Back from the Dead?" Because I remember Kirk Douglas dying in the 80s. I remember him having his stroke, and then shortly after that, he passed away. I remember the Entertainment Tonight, da 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 da, and I remember them talking to Michael Douglas. He was wearing a blue blazer and mirrored sunglasses. I remember him lifting his sunglasses and wiping his eyes. I remember him talking about the death of his father, and his dad just finally died like 2 years ago at the age of 182 million. He was over 100 years old.
Yeah,
and for us, it was Billy Graham, by the way.
Right. Well, and Mandela, that's where the Mandela effect came in. Fiona Broom coined that phrase. So suddenly you have to start re-examining what's what's real and what's not, what might be happening. And I've often wondered, the concept is we all are promised this long biblical life. Maybe we get to live that long biblical life, not just in this linear pattern. Maybe it's like a stairway. And in this life, when I was, 16 and I put that gun on my mouth, the gun did fire. But my consciousness jumped one over into this reality and picked up from there. Mm-hmm. And that's why I still have these moments of remembering things that didn't happen in this timeline. And then when I was in my car accident 3 years after that, boom, I was wiped out. End of story on that timeline, but my consciousness jumped over to this timeline. And I continue to live out a full, long life and experience different aspects, but I carry those little remnants behind me. And it's funny, the more people I've spoken to about that, the more people remember, well, I didn't have a near-death experience, but you're right, I shouldn't have survived that night. I shouldn't have survived that car accident. And you probably didn't. You probably moved on, and this is a different iteration of your life and consciousness. There's a great movie called The One with Jet Li, and it's a sci-fi goofy movie, but he's going from every parallel universe killing himself so that he can gain the strength of all of those different versions. And it sounds ridiculous, but it'll kind of give you the concept of where I'm going with this. We had a woman who wrote into us, and she's like, Dave, you talked about this. She goes, I'm the one in the office who's responsible for getting the sympathy cards and the birthday cards and the anniversary cards. And we had a woman in the office who was pregnant, and we were all keeping our fingers crossed for her because she had lost a baby 2 years beforehand. And I remember buying the card when she lost the baby. It was devastating. Everybody in the office was all maudlin for a week. And then finally this baby comes. It's healthy, happy. We give her congratulations. And I said to her, that has to be such a relief for you now, considering what happened last time. And she goes, what do you mean what happened last time? She said, well, when you lost the baby a few years ago. She goes, I've never been pregnant before. This is my first time. And she thought at first was this woman just having a mental breakdown where she just refused to acknowledge that ever happened to her. But maybe it did happen to her. And this woman who's writing the letter had a leap. She jumped into a different deal. Those could be what we have as deja vu as well, as we're now hitting that place in this life that we've hit in our past life. So we're having that brief remembrance of it. So I don't know. There's so much we don't understand about consciousness. We can't tell you where it lives in the body. I don't believe that consciousness even exists in the body. I think it might be out of us. Yeah. That's why when people are in traumatic experiences, they're outside watching it happen. I don't know, but I think it's fascinating, and it's an interesting aspect of what we are and maybe what our real potential is.
Have you noticed in your life when you started really asking a lot of, questions about the paranormal, that you started having more coincidences in your life? Like almost like somebody was helping you figure out what more questions to ask?
Yes. It's, I kind of think of it like a mnemonic trigger, right? I lived in Minnesota. I'm a Vikings fan. I wanted to go out and get a PT Cruiser when they first came out because I thought they looked like a nice, cool 1930s gangster style car. And I go there and they're like, oh, we don't have the black or silver left, but I have one purple. And I'm like, oh, I'm a Vikings fan. That's cool. I'll get the purple one. I see black, silver, and white PT Cruisers everywhere. Nobody's got a purple. Every day on the road, I'd pass 20 purple PT Cruisers because now your brain recognizes patterns. Yeah. So once you open yourself up to these things, I think you recognize them more willingly. It's like, when people come to me and they're like, Dave, do you think this is a sign from my dad? I was thinking about my dad. And then all of a sudden I walk out and there's a pack of Pall Mall cigarettes sitting on a bench and there's nobody around. That's what my dad used to smoke. And I'm like, well, so you think your dad used his magic power from heaven to create a pack of Pall Mall cigarettes for you to see, or because you were already thinking of your dad, you recognize something because you were in that moment. It doesn't mean that that's not a form of kind of supernatural. It's a super heightened awareness. But it, I don't think that everything is supernatural either.
But it proves that asking questions makes you notice more things.
Agreed. Yeah. Agreed. And it opens up your mind. We have this conversation today. Now maybe you take a different look at the way you look at Bigfoot tomorrow. Right. And you think, what if we're looking at this wrong? What if we bombard this area with infrasound? will that piss off a Bigfoot or make him come running because the sound hurts his ears? If he's an animal, if Dogman's an animal, we know that they can hear high-pitched dog whistles. If we, bombard this area with infrasound, can we get it to come out? Can we find, and maybe you try something a little different because something has been ignited in your brain. I think that's great because, man, that's what's going to keep us alive. That's what's going to keep us firing, is constantly pushing and thinking of new things to consider.
Well, that's one of the things I think is so amazing about kids and mysteries. If you can get a kid interested in mysteries, whether it's paranormal, Bigfoot, cryptids, whatever, UFOs, I mean, I think it has a huge impact on children, just because.
Funny you say that, because today at an antique shop in the town, this undisclosed location, I went in and I found an original Hardy Boys book with the original dust cover from 1927.
Oh, man.
And
that's
you know what?
Find.
I could follow that back. I bought it because I'm sure I read it at one point, but I was like, this is cool, because I remember sitting in my buddy's garage with our little black tape recorder and our Kmart tape, cassette, and we would do Hardy Boy mystery stories. And we would pretend we were old-time radio shows. And I was so fascinated by radio that I always put myself in those positions. I would make radio shows. And because I was so fascinated with these mysteries and these stories, did that open me up? And you're right, setting people and giving them a reason to challenge their brain and not just walk in this fugue state of accepting everything around them as it is. But, that can be dangerous, too. We see people taking conspiracy-level jumps that are ridiculous, and that can be dangerous. But engaging your brain in ways to think about things in a healthy way, step outside of yourself and look at things in a bigger perspective than you normally would, does that excite a new way to investigate? And I think that that's very true. So yeah, I mean, maybe the Hardy Boys were my step in. I remember the ghost story Hardy Boys books, right? Haunted Rock and this and that and the other. I remember those, and I remember sightings and In Search Of, and fascinated by these mysteries and wanting to know more. Wow, could there really be this large plesiosaur character swimming around in a dark Scottish loch? Could there be a large humanoid, hairy, 7-foot-tall figure that lives amongst us and we don't see it? Could these things? It excites the brain. And if you talk to most people in our field, they'll tell you, well, this all started watching In Search Of.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. Yep.
Right? Their brains were engaged at an early age. It wasn't just Sesame Street and Punky Brewster. It was In Search Of and sightings and unsolved mysteries and, continuing that journey and reading those books. And that's where I lived. I filled my brain with that. My mom and aunt lived on those kind of books. They were always laying around. And then you never know where they lead you, right? I remember seeing the Amityville Horror book with the giant fly on the cover sitting on our kitchen counter. And I said, oh, Mom, can I read this? She's like, no, this is really scary, and it's a true story. Flash forward 30 years later, and I'm really good friends with Christopher Lutz, the youngest boy, and I get to introduce my mom to the youngest son from the Lutz family, and we're friends. And here was the book that was sitting on the counter, and now I'm introducing her to the surviving kid. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
Sure. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Question about Bigfoot for you. Have you ever gone to the woods? Have you ever done boots in the ground? I know you have a big interest in it. You've talked about a few times. I've touched on there in this show. Have you had a chance?
I haven't. In all honesty, Joel, I'm a big wuss. I'm not a big outdoors guy. I'm an avid indoorsman. There's pokey, dirty, stabby things outside that want to bite you. So I'm not real big into the Bigfoot hunting. However, Dr. Melba Ketchum did tell me that she could help me. There's a location she knows of, and I have 2 guides that want to take me. And we've been putting it off for 2 years because it always falls when they're available to take me. And it's not them. It's like they reach out and they're like, Dave, let's go next week. And I just found out I have to start filming my TV series. So they're like early spring through late spring is great. And early fall is a great point. And those are 2 points that I'm at my busiest. And they don't know that. It's not like they were picking spots I couldn't make myself available. But I would like to get out there. I would like to go on a Bigfoot hunt. But here's my thing, Joel, and I've told Doug this as well. I want to know what your plan is if we find it. Because everybody goes hunting for one, looking for one. But if you around the corner,
That's a fair point.
7-foot angry hominid, I don't want you to run the fuck away and leave me alone. I want to know, what is our plan of action? Nobody has a plan of action. Nobody brings a gun. Nobody brings mace. Nobody brings Slim Jims. I don't know what we're up against. And you want me to go into the woods and find what potentially could be a very pissed off, very big creature that some people tell you are very aggressive. Others say they're very tame and loving, and they just want to be left alone. I'm the guy that walks into the convenience store 30 seconds later, it gets held up. I'm the guy that, gets hit by a car that shouldn't have been out driving that day. It's always, I'm that guy. Sure. I just don't want to be the one that finds the pissed off PMS Bigfoot that day and, get my arm ripped off and beat to death with my own arm.
So here, I get the perfect Bigfoot.
Okay.
Edition. Go on, one of these sites that rent homes and find a cabin off the grid, solar panel, no, running water, shower, dishwasher, rent
with
in the middle of nowhere.
Okay.
So you've got all the luxuries of home. You're in the middle of nowhere. Step outside, right near the step where you walk on the deck. Yeah. Do a few wood knocks and then go to bed.
Yeah, I'm all for it. So let's do this, Doug.
You've got your big 30-30.
I don't have any.
Loaded your shotgun, and then the cabin gets attacked. So now at least you've got a confirmation they exist. It's just kind of like ghosts, you need that confirmation.
Well, I had my confirmation when I was about 11, 12 years old.
That's all he needs, Doug. It's all he needs.
I saw it.
It's totally done.
But here's the deal. Like, I'm also the guy that with my luck, this thing's going to hit the side of the cabin. The shotgun's going to fall on the floor and shoot and kill this thing. And then everybody's going to be like, they're
going to blame you.
You just killed a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
You just killed a Bigfoot.
Or
and then I'm screwed.
Cap off.
Yeah, either way.
Let me tell you a cautionary tale. Dave, I'm going to defend you here for a minute with this.
All right.
Mike Hexum. You know him, Doug. He's one of the Minnesota Bigfoot research team. He's out Bigfooting. He's by himself. He's out there looking for Bigfoot. He hears stomp, 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 and he's thinking the Bigfoot's coming in. No, it's a bull moose. Trees him.
Yep.
So, there are things that can happen.
I'm not an agile guy. I'm not going to make it up a tree before the bull moose impales my nutsack. I'm going to be in a bad place. So here's the deal. If we can go, Doug, you, me, and let's find somebody slower and fatter than me so we have somebody to push down to the ground and run, then I would consider it.
Yeah.
Does that make me a bad guy? Does that make me a bad guy?
No, not at all.
We'll bring Mike O'Neill with us.
Those could be the most amazing expeditions.
Yeah, I'm all for it.
You're in your life. You don't even have to give up a dishwasher.
Yeah, but you know what I'm also afraid of? I've watched Deliverance.
Yeah.
Somebody could break in with this.
It's just something to think about. At least when I'm in a building with a ghost, everybody's like, okay, well, what's your plan, Stan? Well, I'm gonna see a ghost and hopefully have the balls to stand there and talk to it, or run out. But either way, I had an experience, right? Yeah. I just feel there's less damage coming to me from a ghost than a giant 7 foot tall or larger hairy hominid figure who's really good at not being caught, maybe for a reason.
So can you kill a ghost, Dave?
What?
Can a ghost be killed?
I don't know.
Has anybody claimed they killed a ghost?
Well, there was this Dr. Egon Spengler. He was able to capture them. No, but that's what I was saying. I'd like to take a degaussing gun and degauss areas that are known to be haunted to see if we could break up that energetic pattern. But if I do that, am I hurting the spirits? Something that I don't know the answer to. And if we're an
definitely don't want to take your credit cards out of your pocket.
Yeah. Oh, and you probably wouldn't like to have your cameras around either because it'll probably wipe your cameras and screw them up. So I don't know.
I have one of those things and I've played with it. It's quite interesting.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting. I'd love to try, but again, what if I wipe out your grandma? Your grandma's ghost is hovering around. Doug, it's so good to.
That could happen. We don't know. You really don't know what you're missing.
Right. So that's why we have to be cautious.
Yeah. Ghost lives do matter, man. So
yeah.
Be careful with this.
Afterlife matters. That's
but going back to the capturing of a ghost, for those that have never heard this story, you claim some guy tried to capture ghosts or didn't, and claimed he did?
No, Egon Spengler's from a movie called Ghostbusters. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
I do recall some group.
I saw. Okay, I got you.
I do recall a person with a mirrors and a kennel was trying to tell me they could capture a ghost.
Yeah.
Well, there are haunted objects, but is that truly haunted, or is it merely a fragment of our personality? Mirrors were long considered portals, and when somebody would die, you would cover the mirrors in the house, and especially at night, so that the spirits wouldn't have a way to get in or out. There's rumors and legend and lore that they could enter through the glass eyes of a doll. That's why they started making dolls' eyes that would close when you put them down at night, so that the spirits didn't have these passages in and out of your house. But to me, I mean, if I have my son or my glasses sitting on my bedstand, if they're just looking for a glass portal, why not pop in through my glasses? So I don't know.
Well, but you hang out with all these, all these celebrity ghost hunters, and have you seen any evidence of a haunted object personally?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Some haunted dolls. I've seen some weird shit happen around haunted dolls. I've seen some weird stuff happen around different items. But again, is it truly, we had Marianne Winkowski, the ghost whisperer. She was the one the TV show is based on our show. And she works like closed circuit TV. If you think you have a ghost in your house, you call her. And if she can see inside your house, you have a ghost. If she can't, if she's completely blocked, that means there's no spirit there. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. So I set up a few phone calls. I didn't tell her I set these calls up, but I knew who the people were. So I didn't have her having her friends call in and plant these calls. So I set it up, and this woman's talking. She goes, yeah, so I've got, I think we have a ghost. She goes, all right, yep, you definitely have a ghost. It's a male ghost. She goes, so this is how I see your house set up. And she starts to describe the house. And then she goes, this ghost is attached to something in your garage. You either got like I can't see the item specifically. It's either like a lawnmower or like a snowblower from an estate sale recently. And that's when the activity started. And the woman's like, holy shit. Yeah, we bought a lawnmower from an estate sale. She goes, yeah, this male spirit is with it. And she goes, and you have one of those little yappy dogs. And for no reason in the world, that dog will jump up and squeal. That's because he comes in the house and kicks the dog. He doesn't like the dog. And she's like, holy shit. Yes, we have a little chihuahua. And he comes, all of a sudden that dog will get up and jump like it's been kicked and scream and run into another room. So first of all, how depressing is that I die and I'm attached to my lawnmower?
Right. That's one of my fears. Dave, one of my fears is not afterlife, but a boring afterlife.
See, but my dad loves his lawn. I think if anybody would haunt his riding lawnmower, it would be my dad. I could see that because he spends hours mowing and trimming and hedge clipping. So I could see him. That's his nirvana.
What if we break up into little ghost pieces when we die?
Well, I think that's what does happen. I think that's why you'll see grandma's ghost as a child at her childhood home. You'll see grandma's ghost as an elderly woman in the home she died in. I think that there are fragments of who we are that we leave behind. And I think that sometimes, and there's actually a metaphysical treatment called soul retrieval, where you can go in. It takes like 3 to 4 hours, but a practitioner walks you through and collects, because we have these moments in our life, these moments of fear and love, and every person you've ever slept with, you've left a part of them with, a part of you with them, and taken a part of them with you. And so that may explain why you get these emotions and feelings that aren't yours. You have no reason to be depressed today, but all of a sudden you start feeling horrible, and then
or the feeling of loss.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Great loss.
And then you talk to Joel, and Joel's like, man, I'm having a bad day today, Doug. I feel so lost. I'm missing my dog. And you're like, man, I've been walking in that stupor, and you guys are friends. So maybe you're feeling from his tether point. So sometimes we have to go back and collect those little pieces of ourselves. And I've been working on that in meditation and ways to draw back those pieces. Think of those moments. And actually, I do some experiments that we've done on our radio show where I walk people through this idea where I believe we can time travel within ourselves and within our own lifetime. And think of those moments when you were hurt the most. And go back to those moments in your mind and pick that moment, Doug, when you were little 8-year-old Doug, and you were all about Bigfoot, and everybody bullied you and called you a nerd and stupid and would push you down and give you wedgies, and you felt lost and alone because your love for Bigfoot. And now go back and give yourself some love. Hug that version of yourself and say, it's okay. You're going to get through this, buddy. And you know what? you're right, there is a Bigfoot and he's out there and we're going to find him. And sometimes in giving that love back, it's this emotional break for people. And I think if you keep doing that, you can go back to those moments and give love to yourself and help heal.
So
and then
defrag your hard drive.
Right, exactly. That might be a way to do that.
And you get to hug a Bigfoot there, Doug.
Yeah. The wedgie? Not the wedgie. Didn't happen. Ain't nobody giving Doug a wedgie.
Come on, little 7-year-old Doug, maybe.
No one ever got a wedgie.
All right.
You know, when we go out squatching in a couple weeks, you and I, at the Bigfoot convention, if you get the Bigfoot wedgie, that'd be great.
I'm going to have Abe give you a wedgie.
Yeah, we're all good there. But that'd be great. You know, have you ever been to a Bigfoot convention, Dave? I mean, it's a great time.
No,
if you haven't been, you really got to get in. We do one every year here in Minnesota. So next year, when you're available, we're gonna definitely have to have you up.
Well, invite me in. I'll come in.
Yeah.
I'll tell you.
It's really a good time. I think you'd have a lot of fun because you're not gonna meet a greater bunch of people than people that are squatching. You know, just a great bunch of people.
Well, that's what the alien people tell me. They tell me you're not
that's
going to meet
what
better
they say,
people than alien hunters. And I'm a ghost hunter, so who knows? You know, maybe we just all combine, which is what was so great about the Duluth convention. You had people from all facets, Bigfoot, ghosts, aliens, and, you know, coming together, giving people a chance to realize that we're not that far apart in our belief systems.
Sure.
No,
absolutely.
Might come from the same plate.
Yep. Well, have you ever noticed, though, a lot of paranormal activity is related? Like people that have ghost problems will also talk about Bigfoot or UFOs, things like that. They tend to be, I'm not saying all, but there's quite a bit that are related, that are conjoined together.
You open yourself up. I've had a Bigfoot encounter, a UFO encounter on a couple of occasions, ghost encounters, psychic phenomena happen around me, near-death experiences. So I've been there. You know, I think once you become a part of it, that's why I tell people not to take this lightly. It's not just a stupid little hobby, because sometimes you poke a hornet's nest and you get stung brutally. Sometimes you get the answers you're looking for, and you have to be really aware of why you're doing what you do. If it's for the thrill and you're not thinking things through, then don't do it.
Yeah. Absolutely. 110%.
Dave, can you tell us your Bigfoot story? We have 1 minute.
Real quickly, Foley, Alabama, my grandparents owned 40 acres. They only had about 10 of it was livable, but they had a pond that we used to fish in as kids, and we were fishing down by the pond one day. We heard something loud stomping around, and my cousin and I were down there, and he was a couple years younger than me, and we heard it walking towards the back of the pond, and there were these huge hedges and bushes, and all of a sudden it stopped, and we saw this hand come up over the top of the bush and push down. And I could see from about the top of the upper lip to the top of his head, and it had this dark black gray kind of mane, deep dark inset face, and hair over the top of its hand like Chewbacca. And it pushed down that bush, and that was before Chewbacca for me. So I was just blown away. My cousin and I looked at each other, ran up to the house. Our grandfather, our dad, and uncle went out there with shotguns to go see what they could find, and they couldn't find anything. But the two of us witnessed this, and you could hear things stomping around out in that back 40 all the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, cool. Dave, it has been a great time talking with you. The hour and a half went way too quick.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Quick. It was a lot of fun, and thank you for coming on.
Can I mention one thing? Discovery Plus, there's The Curse of Lizzie Borden, a new special that I shot. It's a paranormal special. It's out on Discovery Plus and Discovery Plus UK, so you guys can watch it. It's we investigate the Lizzie Borden ghosts and curses, and it's a really cool special.
Very cool. Tune into that. I know I saw that on Discovery Plus just yesterday, so I will be tuning into that, taking a peek at that. Catch Darkness Radio. Of course, that's over on Stitcher, isn't it? And other platforms. But
any platform you listen to podcasts, just look up Darkness Radio and you'll find us.
Very, very cool. Hey, we got to get out of here, man. Doug? Wow, did that go by quick. Till next time, guys, take care of each other, love each other, and keep looking for the strange. You just might find it.